Jenny and Trai are back. In a freewheeling catch up, we cover the range of issues and obstacles we've been preoccupied with since 2025. Jenny's life has gone fantastically next level. Such great news. She can't wait to share. And Trai, well, Trai's a walk in. What's a walk in, you ask? Come find out. There are an infinite number of ways to do this thing we call existence, and we continue to discover more of the variations. The world is pinballing, and so are we. Welcome to Light in the Fog. Cheers. Hello, meow meow. Oh my gosh, we are still here. And isn't that an amazing
Yeah,
thing in September of 2025? Really into
October.
the road. I'm sorry, October. Oh my gosh, it's October 1st, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, it's
You
October already. Can you believe that?
no, because it's been fast slow, fast slow, fast slow, fast slow, and it's just been so out of control. I think that, Jenny and I were just really interested in just being like, let's just let go for a while and let's let the energies work themselves out. I mean, I follow astrology, so I knew September was going to be kind of a wrap up, leap into a different kind of energy vibe. And here's hoping that October delivers what they promised it's supposed to.
Yeah, well, and I feel like coming back in October is just so fitting because it's like, in my opinion, one of the more spiritually accessible times of the year in terms of witchcraft. And so it just makes sense for us to get back into it, maybe do some witchy episodes. Um,
Yes.
but first, but first, we of course have to talk about why we were away in the first place. Where the heck did we go?
Where did we go? Are we even sure where we went? I mean, this is something that I think happens to a lot of people these days where time passes and you're just not sure where it went. But we definitely were on spiritual missions, both of us. Big, big, big time spiritual missions. And I know Jenny, like, I feel like you're like on the far side of about 9/10 of yours.
Oh my
And I don't
god,
know
what a
where.
long, what a long 9 tenths it's been. Jeez. Because I also feel like you just said, you don't know where you are in yours. Like, I feel like that's kind of the point. Is it's like you think you know where you are in your spiritual journey, and then some other stuff happens, and you're like, oh, okay, I'm not where I thought I was. And then suddenly you are where you think you are, and you're like, am I there? Like, really? Like, is it real? And it's like, let's just see how it plays out for a little bit, and then we'll make a determination about that.
I
Um,
love it. See, now she
yeah.
gets to be kind of casual, like, let's see how it plays out. Because, like, all these really, really wonderful things have come for Jenny. She worked really hard and she has achieved really wonderful things for herself. So, first off, I just want to recognize that even in times of chaos, that you can still do right for yourself and still keep it moving, man. So, well done.
Thank you. That means a lot. And I have a hard time taking that credit and accepting that because it's like, I feel like a lot of this stuff was given to me, and like I'm grateful. And I also have to recognize that I have worked hard to get here, and that this is the right time for these things to come to me. And so I'm just at that point in my life. But yeah, like that transition to late 20s to, well, mid to late 20s, I guess, is where I'm actually at. Has
You
been
keep trying to be
really
like, I'm almost
fruitful.
30, I'm almost 30. It's like, you have 3 more
30
years.
chain.
Chill,
With
chill.
how
Don't
fast this year is
that chill.
gone, those 3 years are going to be so fast.
Well, try to be mindful and enjoy them. And yes. Uh
Yeah.
huh. Okay, boomer.
I would never.
Yeah, no, you wouldn't. You wouldn't. Also, not a boomer. When are they going to start saying, "Okay, X"? Well, Xers don't care. You can call us anything you want because we're just going to look at you like, whatevs.
Yeah, that's exactly the point. Whereas it's like, you come to a boomer and you're like, you gave me all this trauma. And the boomer's like, no, I didn't. I didn't do that. This is how it was for me. And then you go to Gen X and you're like, you gave me all this trauma. And Gen Xer's like, all right, whatever. Like, sorry. What do you want me to say?
Which I don't know if that's better. I mean, like the false apology and
There's no
sorry,
gaslighting
this
with
is
it, at least.
yeah, that's more or less true. Yeah. But and folks who are new to our podcast, we really, really love talking about the generational differences. So, Jenny, what do you identify as generation wise?
Um, I'm an elder Gen Z. I'm an elder Gen Z.
Right on. And if anybody couldn't figure it out by now, I am an Xer. Hardcore. It's the only team that I will own because Xers don't own. Like, we don't want to be on teams.
Yeah, so true. But yeah, yeah, I agree. And kind of cutting back to things, I feel like you and I are both at very transitional points in our life.
Really are.
Um, and I feel like the time away from the podcast really marked that for both of us. So we're going to talk a little bit about that and about what's been up for us. There may be some repeat information in previous episodes or later episodes. But yeah, and Trey requested that I start, so I can start. Um,
Give us the
I
rundown. Tell us everything.
So we started taking a hiatus from the podcast because obviously you had some stuff going on with the trip and everything else. And it coincided really well with when I was like getting the ball rolling on moving, because I found out my ex roommate was going to be moving in with their boyfriend, and so I had to start finding a place to look. Sorry, finding looking for a place to live. That's what I was trying to say. And yeah, so I was just going through that in the beginning, and then I eventually found a place,
I
which
think you're
fit
like
well
kind
for
of
me.
burning through that, man. Like
Well, I'm
first
like, do
off,
I want to spend like 10 minutes talking about the hunting? I guess I can. Yeah, it
it's
was
our
like
podcast. Do what you
it's
want.
our podcast. Yeah, it's been so long, I forgot the rules. Um, so yeah, I found out I had to move, and then I didn't really get the ball rolling until about 2 months before, and I was looking for places for on Zillow for a while, and the place that I ended, like I toured a bunch of different places that were within my price range, and the
Which
place
was
that I
tricky. It was because it was
yeah.
definitely on the lower end, and it's Colorado, and Colorado's expensive.
Well, and there was like an area that I really wanted to live in, which is in Denver, close to some of my friends. And the reality is if you're living in Denver at your price range, you're sacrificing some things. And I decided that those weren't things that I was willing to sacrifice for my sanity, such as like an in-unit washer and dryer, space, a balcony, to name a few things. And the place that we ended up going with, we as in me, but my grandma was also helping me apartment hunt, um, is was a place that we just found willy nilly, where we had toured apartment that was I thought for sure was going to be the one and was the top of my list, and they raised their price by $200 during the tour, and so we were just like, oh well, this isn't in the price range anymore, and then we were just calling around to see how else we could fill the afternoon, because I left work early to go tour apartments, and we came upon this place and had decent reviews. So we called, they answered, they let us tour. It was a decent space for a decent price. It was a little farther from work than I was before, but it's in an area that I really like. They had an indoor pool that was
Indoor
promised to
pool,
be, yeah, except it hasn't been freaking open. So that's been a
closed
drag.
indoor pool.
Closed indoor pool, one of the features. Um, so yeah, and it's been good. And I'm living alone. It's like 760 square feet, one bedroom apartment, in unit washer and dryer. Um, and the moving
These are all
process
really,
happened.
really big milestones. I mean, these are adult things. I remember the first time I
Hmm.
got to have a washer and dryer in my apartment because I've always lived in big urban places where I was never going to be able to afford a house. And yeah, the first time I had a washer and dryer in my unit, oh, luxury, luxury.
Hmm. It's so nice. Oh my gosh. And what was the other thing I was going to say? Um, it's just good. It's a good place and it's nice. It's not too bad of a commute from work. I enjoy it. Um, it does feel more adult, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. And I want to go back on a couple of things. So part of the struggle of the summer was trying to, for you, if I remember correctly, it was trying to like connect back with intuition and not having like a lot of the doubts and the worries that, like all of the kind of bad energy in the last place. It can be, I guess what I'm trying to say, you guys, is like it can be really, really hard to move forward when you're in the morass, man. And you were in the morass.
Yeah, I was definitely stuck. And there was a point where, when I was beginning to look for places, or a little bit before that, where I knew the move was impending, that I realized I was stuck. And I was like, I just have to wait for the move to happen. Like, I can't, I'm stuck in this energy. It's not good energy. There's a lot of grief hanging there, there's a lot of blockages. And I just had to wait for the move. And I knew that. And I stopped doing magic. I stopped doing all the things that I needed to do. Um, and it kind of coincided with the podcast period, because like it's been almost like, what, 2 months since we've recorded. So like,
I don't
yeah,
time. I don't know.
time, who
Probably
knows.
longer, shorter. I don't know.
um, but yeah. So things worked out how they were supposed to. The moving process was pretty good. I got an entire month to move my place. It was definitely the most stress-free moving process I've ever had. Granted, that was definitely because of the help of other people. But I just really came into a lot of gifts with this place, and a lot
Yay.
of potential, which I will unpack a little bit of. But like, I feel like we're gonna unpack it more in future episodes. Especially as we talk about returning to magic and stuff like that. So yeah, 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 yeah,
Yeah, and I also remember that at some point you were getting really discouraged on finding a place. And I remember distinctly at some point, because of course she and I were still talking during all this time. I mean, we're friends. The whole
yeah.
reason we do the podcast is like because we're pals. And there are conversations that you all aren't privy to. And I do remember at one point you were just ready to give up. You were like, just like, this place is fine, this place is fine. And I remember saying, like, there's one more out there. There's just one more out there. Keep the door open. And I think that's and then it coincided with you and your grandma making that last loop. So good job.
Thank you. Yeah, and the place that you're talking about that I almost ended up with was about the same square footage, but it was on the first floor and there was no balcony.
Mm-mm, mm-mm.
So,
We
and
don't
I,
do
I
first
really like
floor
having a
apartments.
balcony.
Sorry.
Yeah, no first floor, even though it's easier for moving. No first floor. I agree.
Nope, not worth it. Pay the extra
Because
money.
then
They got
like,
elevators.
yeah, because then I can like leave my patio door screen open overnight because I'm on the fourth floor. Like, nobody's gonna break in that way.
So
Like, that would have to be so much effort for so little
yeah.
reward.
Yeah, sorry, as females, we don't do first floors. I don't do first floors at hotels, you guys. Nope.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, I think they were also much less safe than they are now. Like they actually got like real locks and they have like, locks on the doors to get into the hotel. Whereas before it was just like
Yeah.
everybody was coming and going. That paranoia runs deep, man. I was noticing that I still lock the chain lock on my door. And you guys, I live in Kansas. Like, what? Like the squirrels are coming? Like, who is coming for me? But it's been like a lifelong habit to always assume that I have to keep up boundaries. Now, it's not a bad thing as a psychic to make sure that you're doing your energy hygiene. But do you feel safe there? Do you feel like you did clearings and you set up what you wanted for your protection stuff?
Yeah, I think there's probably more clearings to be done, but I did what I needed to do. It feels like a safe place to practice magic, and I've been practicing magic a lot more because of it. Also, with how I set up my altar and where they are, that I've been practicing a lot more magic. Um,
Did it call
and
to
yeah,
you? Set me
it
up
did.
here.
Well, it was more about where the heck am I going to be able to fit this, and I was really trying to fit it in my room, and then it just didn't work out that way, and so I just put it in the best spot in the living room. And because it's in the living room, I use it a lot more because I'm looking at it a lot more, and it looks really pretty in the living room too. So it worked out how it was supposed to, just like all things do. So yeah,
Man, don't say that because I'm still waiting.
it will work out, Trey. You have to have faith. I'm also
I
like,
know, I'm
I've
still in
been
pouting mode.
I've also been off my meds for 2 months, and I'm manic right now, so this is just a part of the flow.
And I love that you called that out because there are times where, our energy is really high where it's like, we got this. What's the problem? What's the big deal?
We're
And
doing
then,
great.
yeah, I'm going to start 7 new projects. And then 2 weeks later, can't get off the couch and be like, what the hell am I going to do with these things? Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. So, marvelous new apartment. And what else
Yeah.
is shifting around in your world? You said you got back to magic. That's huge.
I did get back to magic, and it's like pretty intense magic. Like I'm really wanting to do hardcore spells. I started smoking weed again, which I am allowed to
What's your
say.
backstory on that?
Yeah. So actually, it was the last episode we recorded. I believe was the weed one. No, the last one we recorded was the walk-ins. I think I don't know, but we recorded an episode about weed, which is yet to be released. I think, and as we were talking about it, it was just like dawning on me where I was like, I've been sober from weed for 9 months, and they haven't been a very happy 9 months. And I had started smoking nicotine to like stave off the weed, and like there was clear downsides to smoking weed, but there were also very clear upsides, and the downsides seemed like they might be more manageable, and the upsides would really help out a lot. And I'm still riding that path where it's like the downsides are tough, but if I'm smart about it, I can manage it, and I'm still working on that. But it has given me a lot back, and I feel a lot better and happier smoking weed. Um, so yeah, that's been a big change too, and that's part of the reason I've been doing magic again is because like my tolerance is so low
Because you're
that
high?
like
Sorry.
yeah, no, it's true. It's because it's literally my tolerance is so low that like I can't process anything mentally. Like I can't watch TV when I get too stoned, and it's so easy to accidentally get too stoned that I'm like, well, my two options are cleaning or doing magic because those are the two things that I know I can productively do, like baked out of my mind. Um, and
Yeah.
so then, yeah, that's what I end up doing.
And with weed, for lots of folks, and I think you're one of them. So it's medicine, but it's also, it thins the veil. It gives us access to different parts of our brain work. I mean, you went through all of this in that episode and did a really great job of explaining it. But I can see how magic would be even more sort of accessible and tangible to you if you're high.
Yes, absolutely, and way more potent as well, in my opinion. Um, because like you don't necessarily need to remember the spell happening, and weed messes with your memory a little bit. You just need to know that the spell worked. So yeah, yeah,
What's the
definitely more
intention? What's
potent.
the intention?
Hmm.
Right
And
on.
then the final new thing is today. I think I'm allowed to say this. Today I had a meeting with a supervisor to transfer positions at my job. So I'll be working with older kids. Um, and it'll be more about school readiness and stuff like that. The job will be closer to me. And the way this all came about actually was when I first started at this job, when I was being trained, my trainer told me about the academy, or sorry, I guess I should just call it academy. I'm going to call it academy. So, like, we
Okay.
do early intervention, and then there's academy. And academy is the older kids who are ready for school, who are a little more verbal. And so my trainer told me about Academy and said that they're opening up two in Colorado. And so my first week there, Academy was the goal because I was like, oh, I think I'm going to enjoy that a lot more. Because I already knew going into this job that it wasn't necessarily fully going to be for me. I was actually nervous about it because of that. Because I needed a job. I needed a job in mental health. This one came through. It was clear that I needed to take it, and I also knew that it was going to be tough and it was going to be an adjustment and that this isn't the job I pictured myself being at. And then when I heard about Academy, I was like, oh, that seems a lot more my speed. That seems a lot more in tune with what I want to do. And so it was just about playing the waiting game until they opened Academy. And I knew it was going to be about a year. And it's a year later, and here we are.
And here we are. And I think this might be one of those condescending older things, but sometimes we think like spending a year in a job that we're not really completely thrilled about is just this massive waste of time. But and this is the crap. This is both the cool thing about getting older, but it's also the crappy thing about living through it. Is this job is going to end up being the one that you're doing now at the youngers, is the one that's going to set up everything that happens. And if you hadn't done this job, then the chances are of you having the same pathway, it wouldn't have happened for you. So sometimes, I don't know, doing a year of, toting wood and baling hay, what is that phrase? Is
I don't know.
is just what you do because it's going to lead. The hope is always that it's going to lead.
Yeah, and I kind of knew that as well. And this is a good. I knew this was a good entry gig, and that this was going to give me a lot of skills that were going to be valuable for me. It was very much the same when I started my kitchen job, where I was like, this isn't necessarily what I want to be doing, but it's going to help, and it's going to be the right thing for right now. And I'm just proud of myself for making it a whole year, because there's definitely a lot of moments where I didn't think I was going to.
Yeah, there was a few moments where it's just like, well, something else had better turn up because I hit my year and I'm leaving.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough working with kids when you have childhood trauma, and I don't think people talk about that enough. But yeah, it happened, and I'm here, and I've grown a lot because of it. I've also gained a lot of weight, and so that's the other thing that's changing is I'm starting to just make more positive steps in my life, and I can feel that the tides have shifted, that the chapter has changed. I had a lot of tarot readings that were very explicit about that fact, and that this is my opportunity. Like this is the moment to zone in and strike. And I haven't really had an opportunity like this before. It's very clear to my guides and myself that things have just been set up well for me, and that if I don't take advantage of this, I literally had one of my oracle cards tell me that, like, if I don't take advantage of what's going on right now, and if I don't step up to the plate, then I have to own the responsibility of that because it will be my fault. And I was like, yeah, that's valid. That's fair.
Nice. And it's not that your life would, suddenly be horrible, but it just would be that much longer before you got back on the road, to what you
Yeah.
were supposed to be doing. I mean, I kind of feel like that, we can freak people out about that, like, oh, you missed your window, and they suddenly think that they've blown everything in this life. No, you just have this other side adventure, side quest, if you will. And, you'll get back to it, but it's just going to take longer. And I feel like for your generation, it's honestly like if Gen X did nothing but slog side quests, your guys' job is just like find the road, stay on the road. Just get it done.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like that's what a lot of the younger, oh God, I can't believe but the younger generation has a hard time saying, understanding. Is because, like, I know somebody who is really struggling right now because he just refuses to build his resume, and, like, he doesn't want to work jobs that he sees as beneath him. And it's like that's the whole point. Like, you got to just build your resume, you got to build your path, you got to do the capitalism for a while and suck it up. And it's a lot worse than it ever has been before in a lot of ways, but you still just got to suck it up, unfortunately, because what else are you gonna do? Like, you have nothing
Yeah. So
else.
this makes me think of this I can't remember Hikikomani students. So in Japan, I'm getting it wrong. I should look it up, get it right, Trey. They have notoriously a whole generation of people who are now in their 30s who just quit society, who just simply decided they had too much anxiety, and they started actually unpacking like what was going on there. And it agoraphobia, like where in the world did this come from? But it is ravaged Japan. And I remember the first time I came across it was World War Z, Max Brooks's book. And the only person to survive the zombie apocalypse in Japan was one of these recluses, whose mom would bring the food and leave it outside the door, and otherwise all they did was play video games, and if they did work, it was digitally from their room. And I do need to look up the name. So here's the wild thing. So we have a whole bunch of folks who are not dating, certainly not having kids, not marrying, but they're also checking out of the economy. So Japan's in some trouble, you guys. And then now they have school absent kids. I can't remember quite the phrase that they use, but it's now a bunch of like little kids. So we're talking like 14 under,
Wow.
who are simply refusing to go to school because it causes them such horrendous social anxiety that they can't learn, like they can't be present. They're freaking miserable. And their parents are like, well, I guess you got to stay home now, and they're finally starting to sorry, this is such a tangent, squirrel.
This is
uh,
good though.
but it kind of pertains to what what we're looking at is, if you allow yourself to not allow yourself, I don't know what that means when you have mental illness. I don't feel like these 7-year olds are allowing themselves to not go to school. It's just they literally can't function. But yeah, so to look at young people and be like, well, you have to play by these rules, you have to do these things. And the answer is, well, no, but these kids all have the next generation who are taking care of them. So like if your friend doesn't have somebody to look out for them, I don't know what he does.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing is it's like it because I suffer from a lot of that social anxiety too, and it was really just trial by fire, and like it's very similar to the stories of trauma where it's like you go through trauma and you think everybody else has to go through trauma, but like I remember my first kitchen job absolutely, it destroyed me. Like it absolutely ruined me in a lot of ways. It broke me because of how anxious I was and because of how unsure of myself I was, and because of how much work it was and how much pushing and running and cooking it was. And like it sucked and I cried a lot, and I faced a lot of that at this job too in a lot of ways. And you go through it and you think, well, shoot, I went through it, this must be a rite of passage, like this must be what we have to do. And in a lot of ways it is what we have to do, because what's the alternative? And also it's unfortunate and it's not our fault that that's what we have to do, and it's not something you hold against somebody for being unwilling to do, even though I just was. But like,
So in my family, we call it holding out for management. So we had
mm,
a rash of friends who had married men who found themselves unemployed for various number of reasons, and it's like, you got to go back to work, man. Like that's not a choice. And they'd be like, yeah, that job's below me. So behind their backs, we would be like, yeah, they're holding out for management. And then we bah.
yeah.
It's like if you're starving to death, you will take whatever job is available. But you're right, you shouldn't have to know the feeling of starving to death. This is what's so messed up about our society. I did find what it's called. It's called the hikikomori. Hikikomori students. Hikikomori recluses are the adults, and the hikikomori students. So if anybody finds that compelling, I like to check in on other countries just to see where they're at, because I don't know, it kind of opens my mind and be like, yeah, we have these problems, but dang, they got 7-year olds who won't leave the house. We have kids who refuse to learn how to drive, but they have an entire generation who's refusing to get educated. What is happening in this world?
Yeah, yeah, and I feel like that also speaks to like why you should watch foreign films and check in with your friends. Like just knowing about the world that's happening outside of yourself helps you to ground yourself a little bit more. Where you're just like, okay, I'm rooted in these problems. Other people are rooted in their own problems. Like it's okay. We all have shit to figure out.
Yeah,
So yeah, yeah,
agreed. And we may very well at some point do an episode about being anti-capitalists. It's
yeah. We definitely need to.
it's a thing when you are a deeply spiritual person and you can kind of understand what else is going on, and you're really rooted to all of that. It's really, really, it's got it. I mean, it almost makes me emotional. It's really, really hard to stuff yourself into. Some people call it the 3D life. I call it the meat suit, where you're just like, but none of this is of any value ultimately in the grand scheme of things. Like me getting a job at Home Depot, you know, how like how is that giving me a lesson or giving me an opportunity to do what I'm here to do? And I feel like
Right.
capitalism in some ways was built to break spiritual people, to keep us, focused on dumb, stupid things instead of doing, the things that we can do and the things that we know we can do.
Yeah, it was built to keep the people in power and keep everybody else at bay. And so yeah, and we'll talk about that. We'll definitely do an anti-capitalism episode. It'll be our most viewed
Right
because
on.
everybody hate views it.
Everybody what?
Hate views it. Like hate watches it.
And it doesn't mean we're for any other system except barter. Barter is the only thing that's ever made sense in my head. And I was listening to so Jenny has got me listening to the what's his name? The
Duncan Trussell.
Duncan Trussell's Family Hour. And let me tell you, you guys, he is doing some top fringe investigations into all kinds of freaky deaky stuff. And he really cherishes the opportunity to talk to people who are like, yeah, capitalism is super, super broken. We can't, like, we should not make it a goal to keep this alive. We need, like, there has been other functional financial situations. And I think that the only thing that makes, frankly, I'm with your friend. The only thing that makes capitalism any kind of worth it is if you're doing work that feels important to you. Like you feel like you're actually making an impact, that you're learning stuff, that you're not going home so traumatized that you're drinking or, hitting the bong or doing whatever it is that you do. Like you're not abusing yourself so that you can endure another day, which was entirely Gen X's experience, let me tell you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Definitely agree with that. And I don't really
Yeah, we
know that I
didn't
have
drink
more to say
because of
on
our
that.
parents. We drank because of capitalism.
And your parents.
and and when I ran out of that excuse, I kicked it over to John and Barbara.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Anyway, I don't know how we tangented on this, but yes. Cheers, meow meow.
Cheers, meow meow.
Stay tuned for part two of this Light in the Fog episode when Trai shares all her multidimensional work and making a radical leap forward in her higher self journey. Don't forget to like, subscribe, or visit us on our Patreon.